Deals are like passing buses. You get on one or you don't. And if it doesn't work, you don't.
Find a way to separate yourself from the competition.
There's no deal that's too small. If it makes money, it makes sense. Well, if I can do that and go after an industry I'm passionate about, which is I'm going to do it.
How are you going to make yourself stand out, be different?
When I was a kid, I was always embarrassed by it. Just being the son, a child of immigrants is...
Hey there, business enthusiasts. Welcome to the Chills Podcast, brought to you by All Weather Roof. Because just like a sturdy roof, our conversations are built to last. I'm your host, Brent Loberg, and we're about to dive into the world of business, family, and the moments that give us those exhilarating chills. Ever wonder what keeps successful people inspired? Well, get ready to find out as we chat with some fantastic all-weather customers, partners, vendors, and friends. We'll explore their triumphs, challenges, and maybe even some unexpected secrets. After all, business is not just about numbers. It's about the people behind them. So grab your metaphorical popcorn and join us on this journey. Get ready to be inspired, maybe even get a few chills of your own. This is the Chills Podcast. Let the goosebumps begin. We have Mike Colosimo with us today. Introduce yourself and what you do.
Yeah, I'm Mike Colosimo. I am the founder of Acumen Business Solutions. We are a commercial real estate brokerage, property management, and consulting firm. We're going on our 15th year.
Wow.
Based out of Rogers, but we go all over the state and oftentimes out of Minnesota as well.
Okay. And you started this company?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. So I spent 25 years in the hospitality industry as a hotel executive, traveling the country and working at various hotels. In 2008, when the economy went in the toilet, I fell victim to some right sizing, as they called it. It didn't feel right to me, but
Sure.
Felt right to them. And I understand the decision. And after several months of being recruited by every state but Minnesota, I decided to go off on my own and basically do what I did for the hospitality industry. And so initially I started out as a consultant, taking businesses and finding their pain points, doing an organizational assessment, giving them the prognosis, and then making them whole and healthy. And in about a year into it, 2010, I'm discovering a lot of my clients need real estate, commercial real estate. So being one who loves revenue, I got my real estate license and then kind of grew that. And back in 2010, it was probably 80% consulting, 20% real estate.
Okay.
That is now flip-flopped. It's probably 80% commercial real estate, brokerage, property management, and about 20% consulting.
Okay. And is it just you or do you have other employees as well?
I have independent contractors. I have 3 of them that are all agents. One young lady, Vanita, is our vice president of business development. She's a broker, but doesn't like doing deals. So I've always asked her, why did you get your license if you don't?
Yeah.
But it works out because we negotiated a good deal for both sides. And so she's kind of my right-hand woman, for lack of a better term. Yeah.
Very nice. Any funny stories, business or personal life you'd like to share?
Several, but for the sake of brevity, I'll share one. I mentioned that I was a former baseball player and I thought it was pretty good. I actually tried out for the Twins in 1982.
Really?
Didn't work out. But,
what was the position?
Third base was my position. But in 7th grade Little League, I was suffering from the flu, but sports were my life. As a kid, hockey, baseball, boxing. Those were the 3 sports that I focused on. And most kids would have probably stayed home. I went off to the game. Our complex was 2 blocks from my parents' house I grew up in. And
East St. Paul, you said?
East St. Paul, East Side, pride of the East Side. We were getting our rear ends kicked by a crosstown rival from McDonough. And there was a pitcher named Mobile Bobo. And my kids always go, you made that name up. I'm like, no.
It does. It sounds made up.
It does.
Like the Sandlot or something.
Exactly. And this is like 1977. And he, African-American pitcher. And all I remember seeing is the sun was coming in and I could see his afro. That was baseball. I mean, I remember it like it were yesterday.
Yep.
Anyway, Mobile is throwing a no-hitter. Bottom of the 7th. I am ready to vomit throughout the entire game, but I tried to tough it out. And he gets 2 strikes on me. And the third one I turned on and I launched it over the left field fence.
Okay.
Now that made it 7-1. So we're still down.
Yep.
And I'm just trying to get
a home run over the fence.
Home run over the fence. My teammates are euphoric. They're like, oh, he broke up the no-hitter. And I get to second and I had a little accident.
Okay.
And I ended up crapping my pants. So by the time I hit third.
What grade did you say this was?
I was in 7th grade.
7th grade,
or going into 8th grade.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you know anything about the 70s, the baseball uniforms were tight as heck. And our pants happened to be white.
Tied white.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I get to third and I look down and I'm like, oh man. And I trot home. I waddled home basically. None of my teammates even picked up on it. And they're trying to high five me and hug me and I'm pushing them all away. And I go into the dugout and grab my glove and I just run home. And they're like, Mike, where are you going? Where are you going? Well, my sister happened to be walking up the street at the time. She was coming to watch the end of our game.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked at me and she goes, did you just blank your pants? And I go, yep. And I waddled home, went back the next day. My coach's like, what happened to you? What,
So no one caught up,
nobody
which
picked
is
up on it.
great because seventh grade, I mean, you're going to
Oh,
be getting made fun of the rest of your life.
correct. And so I told my coach and I asked him not to tell my teammates. I said, I had a little accident and my mom had washed the ball pants and I handed them back to him and he goes, because they wouldn't come home clean.
Okay.
So they issued me a new pair of pants. Anyway, it's one of those stories that I'll forever remember and not humorous at the time, but I look back at it and all my kids are like, well, you're the only guy I know that's crapped his pants while playing baseball.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are others, but maybe not everybody will admit it.
Sure.
So
But now you can joke about it.
now I can joke. I can look back. It's 45 years ago. So
You still play ball, softball,
no,
anything?
I gave it up probably 15 years ago.
Okay.
Miss it. The body isn't what it used to be. So
Okay.
especially playing third, you
Sure.
got to have, I didn't wear these when I was younger. I just started wearing these about 10 years ago, these glasses.
Okay.
You've got to have 20/20 vision or really keen eyesight. And I don't have.
Sure.
My teeth aren't pretty, but they're mine. I'd like to keep them.
Yeah. Well, I played Little League. I played third base as well.
Oh,
Loved it until I got hit in the nuts with a ball once. And I'm still afraid of baseball. So
there you go. Even you're probably wearing a cup, but it's still, those cups can only do so much. Yeah.
exactly.
They call it the hot corner for a reason. So.
Yeah. Anything fun going on with the family? Anything interesting?
No, I just became a grandfather.
Okay, cool. Congrats.
Thank you. Third month. She's a beautiful little girl. They live in Maple Grove. And then my oldest daughter just told me she's pregnant. I'm like, what are you guys drinking, man? I have 3 kids that are of age to have
Okay.
kids. So that's really fun. That's something
Cool.
new. I mentioned I'm opening a small little boutique boxing gym up in Rogers called Potenza. Potenza is Italian for power.
Okay.
Our motto is we're going to train you like a fighter without getting punched in the face.
All right. Open house on Thursday?
Open house on Thursday. Yeah. It's up on next to the Rogers Library.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Any bit of advice you can share with the audience about business, real estate, or entrepreneurship?
Commercial real estate. I had 2 great mentors getting into the industry. And with some of my younger agents, I always tell them, a deal can be brokered.
Mhm.
So how creative do you want to get? And, if you can get creative versus crazy, we'll look at everything. So I always encourage them to try to think outside of the box to get this deal brokered. And
Mhm.
if it doesn't work, deals are like passing buses. You get on one or you don't. And
Mhm.
if it doesn't work, you don't. But try to keep an open mind.
Mhm.
It's not always this square peg fits in the square,
Sure.
that's the advice I give all of the agents that start working with me. It's like, it's not always going to be, there's going to be some hair on it, every
Mhm.
deal. It's just what degree of hair can we accept and what can we not? So,
Okay.
yeah.
When you say, so like I always say it, like our sales team's like, find a way to separate yourself from the competition. How are you going to make yourself stand out, be different? Is that kind of what you're going after? Or
Well, yeah, in essence, but we're a small little boutique brokerage and, they're the big boys in town and their model works for them. That's why they're big.
Mhm.
We'll look at any deal, but it has to make sense, as I mentioned. But the one thing that we always encourage our agents to do is if a call goes to voicemail, return their call.
Mhm.
There's no deal that's too small. There's oftentimes in our industry, a lot of brokers won't even look at a deal unless it's a large 6-figure commission coming in for them. And my motto is, I want to grow with you. So we'll take on that 1,000 square foot office because
Yep.
5 years from now, you might need a building. And that's what's held true. I've
Mhm.
had so many clients call back and say, we were tiny and you took the time and you treated us with respect and gave us the time that we needed. Now we want to do this. And that's the best form of flattery. So that's, the mantra that we instill in Acumen and any agent that
Mhm.
comes and works for us.
Sure. It actually sounds a lot like our business model. I mean, our perfect customer would be somebody that's, let's say you have a roof leak and it's a couple $100, build a relationship. And then down the road, when the re-roof needs to be done, you got that relationship already made. And it's like, all right, now they want to work with you.
Absolutely.
It kind of takes the selling out of it. It's you got the relationship.
Yeah, because as the old saying goes, and you guys certainly live that, people want to work with firms or individuals that they know, like, and trust, right?
Yep.
If you're fixing a leak for $200, I mean, that you earn their trust, I would imagine. At that
Mhm.
point, they're like, oh, the guy didn't try to upsell me and, put a new roof on or, some of the elements that come with a roof. So
Mhm.
that's great.
Yeah, exactly. So the name of the podcast is The Chill. So now that we're talking about business, something in your business life entrepreneur life that kind of gives you the chills, makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck or your arms?
Yeah, hotels.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in a
'cause
good way. Chills in a good way.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yep.
did you want bad chills or
Yeah, I would say good chills.
okay, good chills. Bad chills, the interest
Bad
rates right
chills, you
now.
already talked about crap in your pants.
Yeah,
So
it haunts me to this day. Yeah, hotels. I
okay.
because I've spent all those years in the hotel industry. Anytime I can broker a hotel deal, I'm going to do it.
Okay.
And if it makes sense, and my old saying is, if it makes money, it makes sense. Well, if I can do that and go after an industry I'm passionate about, which is hotels,
Hmm.
I'm going to do it. And I had the opportunity to partner with three guys last summer. We bought a hotel up in Baxter, Minnesota, if you're familiar
Okay.
with that area.
Yep. Brainerd area.
Small little, yeah,
Yep.
small little boutique, 61 room, limited services property.
Okay.
Now we're going after a second property. And actually, my next meeting after this is a meeting with the municipality that this property is housed in. So
Okay.
hotels I just love every facet of the hotel industry.
Okay.
It's incestuous.
And what is it? Is it just kind of that's in your blood from back in the day?
I think so. You know, the hotel industry, owning a business is tough in any industry, right?
Sure.
With a hotel, you have to be on your game every shift, every hour,
Okay.
because the old saying in hotels, it's all about heads and beds. That's where
Okay.
the profitability is. Food and beverage outlets, restaurants usually break even, might lose a little money. The convention side, usually very profitable. Heads and beds, that's where it's at.
Sure.
And if you're not, your finger's not on the switch on when to turn the rate, jack it up, when to lower the rate, when to, kind of yield manage the
Hmm.
inventory you have. And that's what I love about just the strategy behind
Okay.
we know Taylor Swift's coming to town. Yay. We're going to jack the rates up to $299,
Sure.
and just knowing what's kind of going on, what those drivers are around your property and when to, how to manage the inventory, when to raise the rates, when to lower the rates, unfortunately,
Hmm.
when, during some downtimes, off peak, season type stuff. Every property has its own set of drivers
Okay.
based on location. So that's what I love about it. Just
Sure.
every shift, every hour of every shift. It's like, all right, we got to look at, if you're familiar with OTAs, online travel agencies, Expedia, Booking,
Yep.
they've kind of taken over the hotel world, making sure you have good rapport with them, and it's all automated now. So you're creating those rates with these OTAs, and you're staying on top of that. That's
Sure.
what just,
You got to be nimble.
you have to be.
Yep.
And I'm not as nimble physically as I used to be, but the mind's still there. So,
Awesome. Any chills moments you want to share from your home family life?
oh boy, I am a first generation American citizen. My parents are from Calabria, Italy.
Okay.
If my father were alive, he would be 134 years old.
Okay.
He was born in 1889, and I'm 60. So that in itself had a completely different set of dynamics. But just being the son, a child of immigrants is, when I was a kid, I was always embarrassed by it. It's like my
Okay.
first language was Italian. And I
Really?
did everything in my power to learn English as quickly as I could and lose the accent. And now I'm kind of like, why did I, looking back at it now, it's like, my gosh, I should be proud of
Mm-hmm.
that. And I had some great parents. I made it to 19. My dad was 74 when I was born.
Okay.
So I was
Wow.
19 when he passed. My mom just passed away last summer. She was 99. There was a 40-year gap, which is weird. I get it, between those two. But yeah, that's family component that gives me chills.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Got a bonus question for you. Favorite boxer and favorite fight?
Oh gosh, that's a tough. Muhammad Ali, by
Yeah.
far. I mean, I grew up watching him. He was just so masterful in everything he did. Even his rope-a-dope was just,
Mm-hmm.
it was just fun to watch. The best fight, I would have to say, was Hagler Hearns.
Okay.
If you haven't seen that fight, YouTube it. Those two were, I think they were either middle or light heavyweight fighters, and it was a rivalry. Back in the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
boxing was probably at its peak, in my opinion. MMA is kind of taken over.
For sure.
And we don't have those rivalries, Muhammad Ali versus Joe Frazier,
Mm-hmm.
Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran. But Hagler Hearns, the last round of Hagler Hearns, they basically said, screw it, tap gloves, sat in the middle of the ring and just toe to toe.
Forget the sweet science at that point. It's just
no
clubs,
science at all.
basically.
It was, and neither of them dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I cannot remember who
I
who they
can't
gave
think of
the-
it offhand either.
who they gave the decision to,
Yep.
but that I remember that last round like, wow, that was cool. And to be frank, my brother's a really good technician. I was more of a let's stand in the middle of the ring and see who can hit harder.
Sure.
So I admired that last round because that was more of my style.
Sure.
So yeah, those are probably Ali for sure,
Sure.
and then that fight.
Yeah. Do you listen to Teddy Atlas has a podcast out? Have you listened to it?
I haven't, but
It's
I
really
love Teddy
good.
Atlas.
It's
Yeah,
really good.
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
actually does. It's funny you say MMA because he actually does some MMA pieces now.
Cool.
So he adds that into the boxing.
Yeah.
So-
No, I could see that, and I've always loved Teddy Atlas, and he's a very knowledgeable guy.
hmm
Yeah.
And just great quotes and just like
Yeah.
life. I mean, just like,
Yeah,
he's just
you
a
sound
good-
like you're well versed in boxing. Have you?
Mo- I actually grew up watching boxing with my dad,
Okay,
but now moved into MMA more.
gotcha.
So I
Was
like
your
watching.
dad a fighter?
He wasn't a fighter, but he
Just-
always had his buddies over. Would be like the late nights. They'd be in the basement drinking beer and smoking cigarettes, and I'd sneak down and like watch the fights. You know,
That's
so
when you could smoke inside. right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But now,
Yeah.
no, I watch a lot of MMA.
Okay,
So-
gotcha. So I don't know how old your dad is, but I don't know if he saw the Tyson Buster Douglas
Yes.
fight. I had a bunch of buddies over because at that point Tyson was. I would watch, and you could see the fear in his opponent's eyes as they were walking into the ring. And all my
Mhm.
buddies like, no way. I'm like, look at his eyes. I guarantee you. And Michael Spinks comes to mind. He
Yep.
lasted 91 seconds. He was there for a paycheck, and he
Yep.
went down quickly. So we were all shocked when Buster Douglas
hmm
kind of shocked the world for that fight in Tokyo. I think it was 88.
That
I don't know if
sounds
you saw-
about right. I
Yeah.
did. I remember it back in the day, but I rewatched it.
Yeah.
More recently as well. And there was a component. I don't know if you knew that Buster Douglas, his mom had died, like
No.
very close to the start of that fight, and that was kind of what gave him the motivation to.
Did not
keep-
know that. Okay,
keep
that's
going.
that's awesome. Interesting backstory. I did not know that. He was a hack.
He was.
You know, he was me.
Yeah, he just kept coming forward.
Yeah. Yep. And seeing Tyson on his knees trying to pick up his mouth guard,
hmm Oh yeah.
and at that point, if you noticed, he no longer became in other boxers' minds. You were no longer invincible, and he lost Holyfield. He had
Mm-hmm.
some other losses, the ear bite incident, you know. So that's when people are like, okay, he is a man. He's human.
Mhm.
And so that was quite a shocker.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing about YouTube is you can pretty much find any past sporting event.
Yes.
You know, you
Yeah.
can get a lot of good boxing and
Yeah.
MMA footage just on YouTube. So
Well, you sound like a fan. So I would go back to Rocky Marciano. If you've heard that name,
yep.
of course, Italian. So I love, but
Yep.
his strategy was, everybody has their guard up, and he
Mhm.
would just punch your forearms until,
Oh, really?
until you would have to drop. He was 48-0.
Okay.
I think until Mayweather, he was the only undefeated fighter, if memory serves.
Okay.
Anyway, but I used to love watching his old clips because that was his deal. He would just
Mhm.
hammer away at your.
I never heard that, so that's what he would do.
Yep.
What was
So-
it? Is it the Rocky movies? Beat the body, the head will go down with it.
The heads will fall. Take the body, the heads will
Yeah.
fall. Yeah. And I was just starting my boxing career when Rocky came out.
Okay.
And of course, being, Italian, everyone's like, Italian, so I'm like, please don't. Because that movie, nobody fights like this.
Yeah.
Great Hollywood,
Sure.
great story, but I've seen them all. So I'm not saying
For
I
sure.
enjoy watching them, but it's not very
For
realistic.
sure. For sure. I can understand.
So
Very cool. Well, thanks for coming in.
oh,
That
thanks
was
for
fun.
having me. That
Yeah.
was fun. That time flew by quick. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Super fun. And that's a wrap, folks. A huge thank you to our incredible guests and, of course, All Weather Roof for making this podcast possible. If you enjoyed these conversations as much as we did, don't forget to hit subscribe and share the chills with your fellow business aficionados. Remember, it's not just about business, it's personal, and it's all about the people. Stay inspired, chase those dreams, and let the chills guide you. Till next time, this is Brent, signing off from the Chills Podcast. Catch you on the flip side.